here's the concern, that the two vaccine candidates that are actually right ahead of the curve at this moment, whether it's Moderna or Pfizer, neither of them have plans to come into India, because Moderna, for example, is a biotech startup. They're looking to make their own money, earn their own valuation. Their stock prices are going up, but they're focused largely on the US and whoever else can afford them, and the same is the case with Pfizer. So where does that leave the Indian vaccines? These are the two vaccine companies that are most ahead on international parameters, and neither of them are coming to India. Is that something which is of concern to you, Dr. Paul?
Two parts. One is that for these two vaccines, if their external supplies to other countries are going to be thin or negligible for a long period of time, we have to factor that in. All nations will have to factor that in. But for India, this is hopefully not a worry, because I explained to you just now that we have our own vaccines, vaccines that are being manufactured in India, and two vaccines that are being developed in India, and therefore we are definitely in a somewhat different situation. And here I also want to emphasize that unlike other countries, the Honorable Prime Minister has clearly stated and impressed the principle that India's vaccine capacity and capability and manufacturing depth is not only for India but for the world, for the humanity. And therefore, when India would take decisions about utilizing the capacity of vaccine production in the country, this principle will be borne in mind. I'm very happy to state that already 200 million doses of the serum vaccine manufactured in India will be made available to COVAX facility. And that's a global facility. That's already a contribution which India's manufacturing enterprise is making for the world. And the same principle will be applied when other vaccines reach that stage where it is possible for the vaccine to move on to an uptake.
But can I ask you this question? And this comes from my concern and experience when we look at any big decision that's implemented. People try to do jugaad, in the typical Indian way. And the problem is that how do you ensure, Dr. Paul, that the vaccine goes first to those who need it the most? वो कहावत है ना, जिसकी लाठी उसकी भैंस. If I have the means and the wherewithal to get advance access to the vaccine, how do you ensure that all those who can afford the vaccine find some way of creating some jugaad mechanism, don't get that vaccine first, and it actually goes as per the plan that you've got written on your sheets? How will you translate your Excels, your project plan into reality without letting it be subverted, because everybody is desperate to get that vaccine, sir?
I think for India, the pathway to make the vaccine available to the people at large will be based on systematic identification of priority groups. Priority group identification is to be balanced with the vaccine availability. At the start, or for some period for some time to come globally and also in our country, there is not going to be vaccine for everybody. We would not be dealing with billions of doses. Eventually, perhaps we would, and therefore, the approach will be to go for prioritized groups, and obviously this will be a national effort in partnership with the state governments. It will be government driven, and these priority groups are those that are required to maintain our health system resilient and strong and moving, and our frontline workers who are engaged in pandemic control. So first thing to secure is that our health system is protected and our pandemic control systems are protected. An immediate priority thereafter is to look at those people who have a high predilection for mortality, those who are more prone for deaths should they get COVID-19 disease. And this usually means people above a certain age, and it usually means people with comorbidities. Within these accepted principles, these are the accepted principles within the WHO system and other, there will be a way in which the identified groups will be provided the vaccine. There will be appointments for them. We will have enrolled these groups, and we will make sure that the vaccine flows only to those people. This jugaad issue will not come in our way. This will be based on high principles, and that work is already in motion.